you have the right skills to be able to prosper and to also carry out your duties in your community, in your home, in your school, or in whichever part of the world you are, so that you can drive positive change in that vicinity. So briefly, I would just like to give you an overview of these years in Bootcamp so that you all know what we are getting into. As I mentioned earlier, this is the Precious Fountain Foundation International Leadership Bootcamp. You can also call Precious Fountain Foundation, PFF. The International Leadership Bootcamp is part of the initiatives of the organization to bring young people across different parts of the world together to equip them with the requisite knowledge and skills that will enable them to function effectively in their society, to contribute to the development of their communities as change leaders. So when we talk about leadership at PFF, we don't just mean that you must be in a position or you must be holding a position as a president or as maybe as a secretary of a club or in which other capacity, but we believe that as a person, and provided you are able to drive change or to influence the decisions and policies or actions in your community, you are a leader. So we believe in 360-degree leadership. And if you have read John C. Maxwell, the 360-degree leader, then I think that concept should not be something strange to you. So I understand that you may be wondering or you may be thinking, am I a leader or am I leading anything? That does not matter, because we believe that as a person, you have to lead your life. And, you are going to have dreams, or if you have dreams in life, you're supposed to make some positive steps that will ensure you to act and to actualize those dreams. So we believe in everyone as a leader. And that is why we put up this event to give you the skills and the knowledge and the encouragement that will help you to function effectively in your community as a leader. So for this year's bootcamp, the theme is building resilient capacity as a 21st century leader. So we understand that as a leader or as an individual, you are going to come across different challenges or hurdles in life. So how do you overcome these challenges? It's not easy, and it's not easy, especially when you are leading people. So this bootcamp is going to show you how to identify some of those challenges that you are going to come across in life and how you can navigate them. So basically, we're going to be looking at different topics that will try to explore the relationship between leadership and resilience and why you need to be resilient in whatever you are doing in life so as to prosper and to achieve success. So that is about the International Leadership Bootcamp for this year. I believe that as you'll be going forward today and in the coming days, you are going to get into detail and understanding of the topic, the theme, and the various subtopics that we have. So briefly, I would like to call someone very special to talk to us because this is our first session for the year. So I'll be inviting the president of Precious Fountain Foundation to briefly give us an overview of Precious Fountain Foundation. As you can see from my shirt, if you can look at my shirt, this is Precious Fountain Foundation. This is our logo, so that is our name. So I'll be inviting someone very special to tell us about Precious Fountain Foundation. And for those of you that may want to join us after, or there is one way or the other you can partner with us, you hear from him, and also he'll be giving his welcome and opening remarks officially for the opening of the Precious Fountain Foundation International Leadership Bootcamp 2024. So, ladies and gentlemen, even though I wouldn't admonish that we just unmute our mics, but through your reactions or through emojis in the chat box, please let's welcome the person of Mr. Christian Soprochu, the president of Precious Fountain Foundation, to give his welcome and opening remarks as we look forward to proceeding to the main item of the day. So, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Francis, for that very wonderful introduction. So What I want to talk about today is why you are important to us in this conversation. So we decided to have this call, training people to be leaders, because of we know that you are important. You are important to the programming of Precious Fountain Foundation. We know that Africa cannot be great without leaders popping up everywhere. We know that your country that you represent, wherever you are from, cannot be great without leaders popping up everywhere. We want you to say, I understand my purpose as a leader, and I'm going to act as one. And so we want to give you the skill set for leadership. And considering the downtimes in the world today, this month, we are changing our planning to resilience. We are making sure that you are resilient as a leader. You have enough skill set to withstand problems, to withstand afflictions, to withstand dangers as a leader. And what I'll be talking about today is two things. First, I will be talking about why this program is important, and I'll be talking about how you can join us to work together as Precious Fountain Foundation. So this program is important because you are going to be trained on how to be a leader. At the end of this training, we urge you to send us your proposals for a project that you will do in your community. We are going to fund that project with $100. So if you know you have a team, you have friends that you can do projects with together, urge them to join up in this call. Send them the link, let them come in. Tell them that after the program, we are going to be funding something. We are going to be funding the proposals that they have for a social impact project in their community with $100. And don't worry, even if you've never done any project before, we are going to teach you everything. We are going to teach you how to write a proposal. We're going to teach you how to set up events. We are going to teach you how to be a leader yourself, so that from your store of leadership, you flow out leadership principles for other people. And to be honest, the fact that you made the sacrifice to be here right now shows that you have everything that requires to create a leader. No matter your circumstance, where you are now is a good place to start. Now, what is Precious Fountain Foundation? Precious Fountain Foundation is an initiative that was created to fundamentally rectify areas of educational defects. So we work in the area of education, and we know that because young people are usually the ones in school, it is important to train young people in other skills that will help them become good people, good addition to society when they leave school. And so we hold projects like this one. We do training for teachers. We do humanitarian projects to schools. We do primary school-based projects, secondary school-based projects, and nursery school-based projects. As far as it's a school, we're involved. We want to move Africa forward. We want to move developing countries forward through education. And that is where you come in. With your support and help, we believe we will be able to create a world where people are aware of their leadership potential, people are able to do leadership well. And that is where we hope on you to make this happen. I will again give you an opportunity to invite your friends, invite people you know should be on this call, invite people you know that this conversation is going to be very, very helpful for. We'll be inviting a speaker who himself has gone through the rigors of leadership on the continent and understands what it means to be a great leader. He is young, so he will relate to you very well. And his store of experience is something that will be beneficial to everyone, including myself. If you want to join Precious Fountain Foundation, it's very easy. Send us an email with your CV and explain to us how you can work with us, the skills you bring to the table. And we set up an interview with you. And if that process goes very well, which it usually does, we will invite you to join our team. There is so many people we have on our team. We have people from various parts of the world in our team, and To be honest, we will benefit a lot from having you work with us. And we are an international organization. Our projects are all volunteer run, so we don't eat into your major time. You still have time to do other things. And yeah, we look forward to having you on this conversation. And so I want you to be relaxed. I want you to have your pen ready for your questions because there'll be a lot of them. Have people around you ready to listen in. Put yourself in a way that shows that you are ready to learn, and also ask questions. Bring out what is inside you as a leader. Again, we are here to talk to you, but we also want to learn from you. That is how learning happens. It happens in real time. We want you to feel very important. In this call, we respect you a lot, we value you a lot, and we can't have enough of the fact that you decided to join us for this conversation today. And so have your pen ready, have people around you ready, get ready to contribute as well. Do not be ashamed, do not be afraid. This is a safe space. And this conversation we're going to be having today is going to benefit you a lot. And so, yeah, that is what I have to say. If you have any further questions about PFF, you can ask me. I'm also wearing the same shirt as Francis. You can ask anybody that is PFF connected, the co-host and all that. We'll be dropping our details in the chat, and we'll look forward to working with you further and having you to the end of this conversation. And so if you're interested in the grant funding, you have to stay for the full duration of the course, and then you have to also write us your proposal. We are going to explain all of that, and one good way to make sure you have the right information is to stay and listen. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Francis, and get ready for our speaker as he comes on.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Christian Soprochu, our leader. We appreciate you for that and kind words and for giving us an insight, especially to those who don't know what Precious Foundation is. So without much ado, we are going to be moving into the main thing for the day. But before that, I just want to read out the topics that we have for the various sessions throughout the training. So today, which is the first day, the topic that we're going to be looking at is leadership and resilience. The essence of this topic is to ensure that we know what we're discussing and what we're getting into. Because if you don't know what you want to do, then it's very difficult to even do it well. So we're going to be looking at what is leadership and resilience, and we try to connect the dots between the two terminologies. And from there, you're able to understand why it is important for you to build resilient capacity as a leader. And for tomorrow, we are going to be looking specifically at why build resilience. So as a leader, why do you need to build resilient capacity? So we're going to be looking at that tomorrow. That is the second day of the training. For the third day, we are going to be looking at the skill set for building resilient capacity as a leader. And for the fourth day, we are going to be considering life examples or case studies of people or leaders who have lived well and have shown some level of resilience. And we're going to be picking some examples from them and how we can apply those traits or those things in our various lives and prosper as well. For the very last day, we are going to be looking at event management, how to set up an event in your area. Because as a leader, you are going to be faced with the challenge of creating proposals, or let's say you have a good idea, you want to create impact. So how do you go about that particular idea? So we are going to be looking at that on the very last day of the end of the training. And for those that want to apply for the $100 impact fund, it's very important for you to listen attentively to that session, because that is where you are going to be taught how to write a proposal and how to secure grants and to pitch and everything that you need to make your project come to success. So also note that we have very wonderful speakers. I believe you have seen them. We have Mr. Emmanuel Abalo, we have Professor Chaya, we have Mr. Jeff who was here, and we have a couple of other speakers who have succeeded in life, and they have proven that, of course, you can be resilient in all situations and come out successfully. So, ladies and gentlemen, briefly, I'll be introducing someone special who is going to be moderating the remaining part of the session. That is Mr. Charles. So he will come on board and introduce our facilitator for the day. And from there, you get to hear from our wonderful speaker, what he has to offer and what he has to share. So I'll now invite Mr. Charles to take over from there. So Charles. Okay. Let's see, I'm looking at Charles so that he can continue with the moderation.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, good evening. I can hear you, Charles. But
Okay,
your line is
sorry for the
breaking.
delay. Oh, sorry for the delay. My name is Odnakati Charles, a student of Mawuli University. So I will be reading the citation for our guest speaker today. So just brace yourself and be ready to receive all that you have in mind, and be ready to also receive that skill that will set you up for a good leader. So our guest speaker for today is Mr. Emmanuel Abalo. Mr. Emmanuel Abalo is a life coach with a deep interest, skill, and focus on empowering young people by helping them to identify and develop their potential. A man on a mission, Emmanuel draws great satisfaction in utilizing his extensive monitoring experience of close to a decade to become a valuable contributor to people's life by listening and finding effective solutions to their challenges. Emmanuel is the co-founder of Ideas Mentorship, a mentorship platform dedicated to offering individuals from the global south a chance at postgraduate education by monitoring them. He holds a master's degree from Uniacre College, Oxford, and is currently a White Rose Scholar pursuing a PhD in Human Geography at the University of Hull. Please, can we make welcome the guest speaker for today, who is Emmanuel Abalo? Over to you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Sure, right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charles, for that elaborate introduction. And thank you to the PFF team, particularly Christian Soprochi, for the opportunity to speak once again at this event. You know, it's often said that when you're invited to a program for the first time, that is an introduction for them to find out if you have what it takes for them to move the agenda, like to support the growth of the organization. But to be given a second opportunity, then it means not only are the team members happy with what you deliver, but then they see you as identifying with their purpose. So thank you very much for a second opportunity to speak, well, to contribute rather to the amazing way that PFF is doing. So I would quickly just share my screen, then we will get on with today's presentation. Hey, once again, thank you very much for joining wherever you are joining in from. Good afternoon or good evening to you. And good morning, perhaps, if someone is joining from a different timeline. So as has already been mentioned, my name is Emmanuel, and I will be taking us through leadership and resilience for our first meeting for today. So just as a background, my presentation outline will proceed as follows. I will start with a brief background, then I will proceed with what leadership is not. Then we will journey through history, then get to the crux of our conversation. From there, we will be transitioning to the principles of what leadership is, then why we must discover our purpose, then the role of leadership. We will then move on to the attitude of a leader, then a schematic presentation of the leadership journey. Then we'll delve in straight to resilience, some common stresses, and how to lead in moments of crisis, then a brief conclusion. So given that today's presentation is the first one, I will focus majorly on giving out the building blocks to understand what leadership is and what resilience equally is, because I know that my colleagues who would equally be taking us from the subsequent days will be delving deeper into some of the building blocks that we'll be laying today. So please do not miss the subsequent days, because they would equally be important in helping you put to use most of the lessons you will be learning from today. So as a background, leadership is one of the topics and concepts which is really difficult to define. When I was informed that I'll be taking the first session on leadership and resilience, I had to have a deep thoughts concerning what I needed to come and say to my audience today. Now, the difficulty in providing a singular definition for what leadership is because of the different perspectives and also the context within which leadership is performed. So when you speak with different people and you have to ask them what their perception is concerning leadership, you would immediately notice that each individual would have a different explanation for what leadership is. But within this presentation, I will not be focusing on merely defining what leadership is. Rather, my focus will be to take us through what leadership is not and give us the tools to know how to discover our leadership. And the reason why I will not be focusing on the definition is that for most of the time, when we focus so much on defining what terms are without really having a singular definition for what that term is, then the problem we end up having is each person will then operate or try to operationalize, the term that has been defined based on their own understanding, which then means that if someone defined a term wrongly, they would equally be performing that role within a wrong perspective. And remember that I earlier mentioned that it is really difficult to provide a singular definition of what leadership is. So I wouldn't be focusing solely on defining what leadership is, but I believe that if we're able to understand what leadership is not, then we'll be able to know that, okay, if leadership is not 1, 2, 3, then doing say 4, 5, 6 would truly would speak to me as some of the qualities or what it takes to be a leader. So whilst preparing for this presentation, as I mentioned earlier, I had to rethink and re-educate myself on a lot of things. And one of the things I had to rethink and to re-educate myself on was understanding the concept of leadership, not from the definitional perspective, but from what makes someone a leader. And whilst going through that sort of re-education, I chanced on this video on YouTube from one of these two speakers who happens to be my mentor from afar, Vusi Tembekwayo. And he had an invitation to University of Harvard University this year to speak with the diaspora community together with Apostle Grace Lubega on preparing African youth for leadership. And the question that was posed to them for that particular conversation was, on a continent where role models of good leadership are scarce, where do we begin to frame the discussion on youth and leadership? Do you believe the youth are ready to lead? And I found this particular question to be really instrumental, and it had a huge impression on me the moment I read the question. And I like to borrow this question to help steer the conversation we'll be having today. So for today's presentation, I'd like to pick a couple of thoughts on this, then would relate it to the point that I mentioned. So I do not believe that Africa as a continent, and by extension, the third world nations, has a problem with leadership. Rather, I think our problem stems from the conception or perhaps the definition of who a leader is, which I earlier mentioned. And I also explained that the way we define something provides an initial basis for us to begin to analyze what the situation is. So if you have a wrong description of what or who a leader is, then obviously performance of leadership roles would equally be informed by that wrong narrative of who we thought or considered to be a leader. What leadership is not. Number one, leadership is not a position. So in the opening statement of Francis, if you remember, you notice that one of the things he said was leadership isn't necessarily the title of the position one is holding, and that even if you're not a leader of anything, you are first of all a leader of yourself, and that is a powerful statement. So leadership is not a position, number one. Number two, leadership is not a title. Leadership is not management. And when we say management, whenever we talk about, you see, there's a difference between someone being a leader and someone being a manager. And I think one of the things that I picked up from the conversation, the Harvard University conversation where Vusi Tembagayo and Grace Lubega spoke, was the fact that they tried to differentiate between who a leader and who a manager is. And one of the things that they said was a leader is someone who attracts followers, whereas a manager has been placed in a position where people must necessarily obey him. So being a leader and being a manager are totally different things. And even dare to argue that within the African context, what we have in most cases are managers and not leaders. And that was really a provocative statement. Now, it is not the accomplishment. Leadership also is not the accomplishment of a list of goals, despite the importance of goals. And the reason is that goals are temporal. So if you think someone has been able to accomplish, say, 2 or 3 tasks, and by virtue of that, you consider the person to be a leader, then we may perhaps be having a wrong perspective of who a leader truly is. Continuing again, leadership is not commensurate to one's age. A child can exhibit leadership qualities, whereas an adult will behave like a follower. And I find this point to be instrumental in that growing up as a young person from Ghana, one of the things I happen to find myself in the midst of people who were always older than I am through my primary education. And almost everyone that I was working with were all older than I was. So one of the challenge I had earlier was being able to bring out what I thought, what I knew was in me, but then was a bit timid showing it, because by virtue of the group of people that I found myself with, I felt I was the smallest, so I needed to just be quiet, not to do certain things. I mean, you know that normally within the African context, when there's a saying that when the elderly people are talking, a child is not expected to say anything. So within that context, you notice that there are a lot of potential that are stifled by virtue of that environment that you grow in. But then another thing that I equally found was, whereas I found myself to be very timid within certain circles because you aren't allowed the privilege to speak, it was totally different within the context of my parents, because my dad often takes me out when he's going for meetings, even having conversations with his colleagues. I happen to sit in the meeting, listen to whatever conversation they're having, and sometimes my opinion is sought on some of the conversations they were having. And I believe within that context, it was one of the earlier stages of helping me develop certain qualities that I didn't even knew were then existing in me until I had opportunity to begin to speak up. So this point really drums to home the fact that leadership is not necessarily as a result of one's age, and especially within the context where most of us are coming from. For people to even get into, say, leadership position within the political scene, there's even an age cap that is placed on it, that if you're not up to a certain age, you can't hold certain positions. So sometimes we are made to think that being an elderly person commensurate with one's leadership potential, not necessarily the case. So Having said all these things, I'd like to walk us through history, just for us to have a look at a couple of people whose life sit down to study extensively to be able to understand what really made these people stand out within the duration or the period where they lived and were considered as great leaders. So the first person is Charlemagne. Then we have Elizabeth I. Charlemagne, so this man has been considered as one of the great leaders in Europe because he was the one that managed to unify Europe in the then world. Then we have Elizabeth I, one of the queens of UK, where I currently am. Then Queen Xinhuan, who was the emperor of United China many years ago. Then we have Augustus Caesar. So if you are to even just Google randomly or even on YouTube to find out the greatest leaders throughout history, these names will be popping up. Then we have King Hammurabi. Then we have King Cyrus as well. We have Louis, who was the king of France, whose time was considered as one of the period where he institutionalized what they call the centralized and control system of managing a kingdom. Then we have Alexander the Great. Then bringing it home, we have Jomo Kenyatta from Kenya. We have Kwame Nkrumah. We have Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. We have Nelson Mandela. Barack Obama, we have Malala Yousafzai, then we have Greta Thunberg. So I am not just showing the pictures of these individuals by just for the sake of showing them. I brought up their pictures because I had to sit down to study their lives individually. Look at within the time that they lived, what were some of the things that they did that made them stand out? What were some of the things that they did that was considered as a mistake, which I could draw some lessons from to help me live a meaningful life within my present duration. And you will notice that I've left one portrait there and I've written you, which means that your portraits can equally be kept here. Because if these people, they are human as we are, but then within the time that they live, they managed to do something that history forever remembers their contribution to mankind. So Malala and Greta are relatively young people. Malala is known for her stance on education in Pakistan at a time where the Taliban had taken over the nation to the extent that she was shot in the head for the things that she believed in. Then Greta Thunberg, a relatively younger young lady who has been campaigning for climate justice and is from Sweden. So with the extensive study that I conducted on these people, the conclusion I came to was one thing defined these people, that defined all the pictures that I showed. Well, the pictures are more than these, but then for the purpose of this presentation, I just selected these few ones. One of the things that's the major thing that I found that stood them out for which they were considered or have been considered as great leaders is because they were able to identify their purpose. And discovery of the purpose then helped them to start developing, or it even changed the way they thought about things and how they envisioned their position in life. The common theme I found that ran through all these people was that they were able to identify their purpose, and the period of discovery was not the same for each of them. They had different situations presented to them, the opportunities for them to discover what was actually in them. And because they knew or they found that purpose, it enabled them to know how to lead the people that they were called to serve. So the crux of the matter is this: every human being was created, I believe strongly, for a purpose. And that when that purpose is discovered, then a leader is born. And the second point is, purpose creates a leader because it provides the assignment for life and signals a sense of significance. So I had the opportunity of reading the book by Michelle Obama called Becoming. And the book, although the book was about her process of becoming the different phases of personality she embodied within her as a young person through her adult age, so the time she married Barack Obama, then into the White House. She also dedicated extensive portions of the book to writing about the life of Barack Obama. And one of the things I noticed was when she was talking about Barack Obama, from the word go, from the moment she met this guy, she noticed that the guy had a single purpose in mind. And that purpose was he was passionate about empowering the community members, empowering the Black community, doing something for the nation of America. So from the time that they were even friends, most of the places he used to visit were avenues where he had opportunity to help address community problems directly. Then gradually, he kept building upon going to different and larger community gatherings to speak on how to address community concerns. And one of the things she spoke about in the book was the fact that even at night, when they are sleeping, and she just gets startled in the bed and gets up to find out, to just turn around to see if the husband is there. She turns around and the husband is not on the bed. But then she sees the husband standing by the window thinking. Then she will just ask the husband, what are you thinking about? And the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, what do you think can be done to solve the unemployment problem in America? But you see, it didn't start from that place. It started from he identifying the fact that he has something to contribute to addressing community problems gradually. And he kept on building on that. And that leads me to the other point that I'll be making, which is the principles of leadership. Now, the first principle of leadership is this, that leadership is inherent in a person's spirit. Number two, leadership cannot be taught, it must be discovered. So when Francis mentioned from the beginning that even if you're not the leader of anyone, you're a leader of yourself. No matter what anyone teaches you, if you don't recognize that there is something that you can offer first of all even to yourself, it becomes very difficult for you to begin to create that space where the qualities in you can be brought to fore to serve other people. The third point, leadership is self-discovery. The fourth point, true leadership comes from serving the gift you've been given to the world. And I made reference to the story of Barack. I will make a connection to it as I move ahead. It is the self-manifestation. That means discovering who you are and becoming it. It is also self-exposure, taking risk and learning from your mistakes. There isn't any leadership activity which is devoid of risk-taking. There is none. I am here to see any leadership position which is devoid of risk-taking. So why must you discover your purpose? Number one, you must discover your purpose because your leadership is hidden in your purpose. And your purpose is the key to your passion. Second point is your passion serves as the driving force of motivation that sustains the focus of the leader, which means that without having a passion, it becomes very difficult for the leader to drive through. And the reason why that is important, I will be highlighting on that or elaborating on that further as we move along. Then without passion, one will lack the energy and boredom would begin to affect the mind and the life of the person. So one may ask, why am I talking about passion when we are discussing leadership issues? Well, it will interest you to know that the leadership journey is very turbulent and it's a messy space to be in. Number two, the path of leadership is muddy. Is muddied with messy water with the capacity to either drown, wash away, or support the person, which in this case, which is the leader to serve. So if you've not identified your purpose well, which then feeds your passion, the moment you are shoved into a position of leadership, I'm using position of leadership carefully. One of the things you begin to notice is because of the turbulence within that space and how messy the space is, you begin to drown because the pressures would cripple you or they'll begin to crush you immediately. So the moment you start realizing that the passion that, without realizing that the passion that you have, which came as a result of you identifying your purpose, is what is going to sustain you in that position. The moment you get to that place and you start working out and the pressures of life starts coming, you would easily give up. This is the reason why one can truly become a leader and make impactful impact when the person has managed to identify their purpose, which then begins to feed their passion. And remember that we said that without passion, the person begins to do what? Weighing down, and your mind even becomes boredom because you'll be used to doing one particular thing over and over and over again. What then is passion? Passion is a deep, possessed drive for a desired end. It is that compelling force and drive in you, which is often greater than your pocketbook. You see, as a young person, and I'm still young, but when I was much younger than this, I was never one who would hold out myself for leading anything. No, I'd rather prefer staying at the back and do what I needed to do than let the work be sorted out. But then I started noticing something, that even if I'm working from the back, that doesn't necessarily make me a leader, because I'll mention some of the qualities as we move along, then that would then help us to reconcile some of the statements I've already made. I started noticing that even if I'm leading from afar, there are certain attributes and attitudes that when I do exhibit them, it shows the leadership qualities in me. It's clear. So I like to borrow from the eternal words of another mentor of mine, Dr. Mawuli. He said that sometimes it's not easy for us to recognize the source of our life's passion because our desires are often bigger than our pocketbooks. Our desires are often bigger than the level of our education, than our natural abilities, our cultures, or even our race. And because of that, we sometimes think or figure that someone else is meant to accomplish the things that we are meant to accomplish. And at this point, I would like to capitalize on what PFF is doing, because I haven't known SOP for up to 10 years, but within the few years that we've been friends, and being privileged to be a part of the PFF journey, you would immediately notice that one of the things that is setting PFF apart as a great leadership platform is that they create that environment for the young people to be groomed. And if the founder wasn't passionate about this particular thing, this particular platform, I'm not sure they will keep organizing it year in and year out and be going out every now and then to keep organizing new programs with the intent of making an impact in the lives of people. But the truth is, the moment you identify your purpose, many a times the vision with which you believe has been placed in your heart for you to accomplish, which then brings out the leadership qualities in you, it will begin to scare you immediately. Why? Because you would start questioning yourself, how am I going to get the needed resources or even the support to be able to become this person that I believe I've been called to become? But the truth is, if your leadership qualities are so small to be handled by you only, then it isn't a true purpose for you. So I wrote here that yet one of the signs of a true passion is that it is much more bigger than we are. So one of the points or one of the indicators that you use to measure whether that which has been birthed in your heart is truly a purpose worth pursuing is that it is often bigger than who you actually think you are. And every true leader is passionate, because without passion, like I said, it will be very, 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 very easy for you to give up along the journey. But then once you've been able to conceive an idea in your heart based on something that you have the desire to accomplish, and that desire begins to birth the passion for you. One of the things that passion does, the passion sustains your drive throughout the journey. It sustains your drive throughout the journey. And as you move along, we'll be mentioning certain points. And as you mention those points, you will begin to see why identifying your purpose early and capitalizing or dwelling on that purpose to generate the kind of passion you will need to keep you through the journey is important, because without it, once the pressures of life comes, you begin to crumble, like I said earlier. And because you're talking about leadership and resilience, as you transition to the resilience phase, you begin to appreciate why these points are really, really important. So leaders don't just do, but they feel what they are doing. Their passion continually motivates and inspires them. Leaders don't just do what they do. I do not believe PFF is doing what they are doing because they just want to do it just to occupy certain space. When Francis was giving the introduction, you could feel the emotions from his narrative when he was talking about why leadership and resilience is important in the 21st century. And why, even if you're not a leader of anything, you're a leader of yourself, you could literally feel the emotions with which he was communicating what the program is intending to do. And when SOP was equally giving that the additional information on what PFF stands for, you could see the emotion with which he described the agenda of PFF to begin to create community development programs to support local communities to grow. It will take someone with a deep passion for what they are doing to continually stay on that path. What then is the role of leadership? I believe the role of leadership, and certainly the philosophy of leadership, is that it must begin to recreate or create, to reimagine or imagine and to manifest a better future. That the role of leadership, and certainly the philosophy. So the philosophy here stands for the thought or the mindset of a leader is to be able to create or to recreate and to reimagine and manifest a better future. The leadership is a commitment to human beings, but the first human being you are committed and answerable to first is yourself. So if the role of leadership is to begin to create and to recreate and to imagine or reimagine and manifesting, we aren't necessarily reinventing the wheels, but then you see, you can become innovative in your approach towards things, and that innovativeness will become the reason why you stand out and you begin to near a new move that others will be inspired by the journey that you've taken. So you might not necessarily be occupying a position in parliament, a position in the country, or even a position in your local community, but because you manage to recreate and begin to reimagine something different, to begin to think through how something can be done in a different way, like what PFF is doing. They are thinking of how can we bring the youth together, given that we have social media now and we are within the age of internet. What space can we create to bring youth from different countries together, to groom and to train them to become leaders in their various community? This is a recreation and a reimagination of something novel. And because they've been able to do that, it is setting them apart to become leaders in this field. You see, so it takes someone with a vision to envision a future that commands the interest and commitment of others to follow. So what leaders do is they mirror to us, the communities, our better potentials. So because this platform was created, I've equally been given the opportunity to speak on it. And by speaking, there are different potentials in me that is equally being unveiled that, oh, okay, so I have that potential to speak to different people on the internet and still make a case that resonates with their individual needs. Perhaps if this platform has not been created by PFF, I may not even have realized early on that I had this potential in me, although some of these potentials existed. But you see, it didn't start from this phase. It started as some many years ago when I started having that inner desire to naturally be gravitated towards listening to what is going on with people and providing counsel to them. Then I never knew I'd be given an opportunity to speak on a platform like this. But I started as something small that I was doing elsewhere, where no one even saw what I was doing. I was speaking with people from the back. And I would never hold myself out for anyone to see that, oh, Emmanuel was the one that spoke with this person and this is the outcome. I would just be at the background quietly. But today I've been given this platform to speak here. So you see, because I identified that passion that I had for wanting to help people, because I, for one, I always say this everywhere, that growing up, I really struggled academically. I was one of the bad students in class, but I at some point in time, I was helped in that someone saw something in me that I didn't see. And what the person said was, I know you're a good student. You just have to sit down to read your books. And the person kept encouraging me. So you see, because I had that experience at a relatively younger age, it totally transformed my academics from being the bad student to become the top student in my school. And because I had that experience, it began birthing certain passion in me to also want to help people. So you see, what that person did, or the person mirrored to me the potentials in me. And that is one of the duties of a leader, one of the roles of a leader. So what imagination does is, imagination changes your behavior and it provokes action by allowing the tentatives to be put in place. This is why I kept mentioning and highlighting what PFF is doing, because you see, they are now putting in place different tentatives to help the youth to know that, listen, you can equally become someone, you are equally a leader, and you can begin to create something novel within your own space. Now, if you actually inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, you are a leader. You don't need to necessarily hold a position. Now, leadership, however, is not a license to do less. It is a responsibility to do more. Remember, responsibility. Leadership takes work. It takes time and energy. And because leadership is a responsibility, that is why you need the passion to sustain you in the journey. True leadership, therefore, is not a method, it's not a technique or a science, but it's an attitude. True leadership is an attitude. It's a dogged attitude to achieve what you have set your mind on to do. Because without that, you would equally fall off on the rail. Having mentioned those points and having established that leadership, therefore, is an attitude, I will just mention these points. I wouldn't be going deep into it because of the constraint of time, but then I'll be open to respond to any question that would come from this, either one of these points. So the first attitude is purpose and passion, which I'd already spoken on. Initiative, that leaders don't wait for the future, they create the future. Leaders are accountable, they are persistent, they are disciplined. They know the importance of teamwork. PFF is not organizing this program alone as a silo program that SOP will be the one speaking on all the topics. He's been able to intuitively coordinate and bring different people together. That is what leaders do. Bring different people together to create this unique platform. And at the time he was doing it, he wasn't holding a position as the president of Nigeria or the president of any position. No, he just had a passion within him. He felt, no, I can do this thing, and identified that as a purpose. And because he had that passion, the things that needed to work to bring the different people together, it is happening now. It is self-cultivation. If you have to speak with him, he will tell you that he has to also study to know what sort of topics will be relevant to our time. Because any person who claims to be a leader but doesn't know the importance of self-cultivation, at some point, you'll become obsolete. You wouldn't be able to become relevant to the people you've been sent to. Leaders know how to prioritize. Having mentioned all these points, I'd like to take us through a simple schematic representation of the leadership journey. So the leadership journey starts from one point which has been written as start to the end goal, where you begin to leave an imprint of yourself in the life of people whilst you are alive and even beyond. But then it starts with the point of discovery or discovering, because you never stop discovering more things about yourself. for most of you listening to me on this platform, I believe you are even better speakers than I am. But the reason why perhaps you've not been able to stand anywhere to perhaps begin to bring out the gift in you for other people to benefit from is because you've not allowed even the little discovery you made about yourself to be put to use. And as you can see, service runs through the entire chain. So from the point of discovery to the point where you begin to make impact in the life of people, it is a consistent progress and a consistent path of service to people, and a consistent and a constant and consistent process of refinement. So the place of discovery leads you to where you begin to build your conviction, to build your perception, and to battle fear. Because if you are to speak with any true leader, they will tell you that the time that they identified the things that they believe they've been called to do, even their future was so great that it scared them. So the point of discovery comes with the need for you to begin to build your conviction, the need for you to begin to build your perception, the need for you to begin to know how to battle the internal fears, number one, because the fear that destroys us the most are not the external fears, because for the external fears, they are always consistent. They will keep on coming. But the internal fears in us are the one that destroys every great civilization. In the book written by Gerard Diamond called Collapse, if you look at what led to the collapse of great civilizations, they were not the external hostility that they were facing, but they were the internal problem they couldn't address that resulted to the collapse. The notable collapse being the Inca civilization in South America. That was a great civilization, but because they were not able to deal with the internal challenges that they had, that is what destroyed that civilization, which also means that any leadership potential can easily be destroyed if you've not come to the point where you've been able to build your conviction to manage the internal battles you'll be fighting within. Because until you've been able to overcome that, it's very difficult for you to bring out the true leadership potential in you. But after your discovery, you begin to notice that there will be mountains and hurdles that you need to overcome. That is why you will know that just discovering leadership potential alone is not enough. You would have to know, you'd have to go for knowledge and understanding. The knowledge and understanding can be from people, can be from books and inspiration. That is why when I started speaking earlier, I mentioned some of my mentors to you, because I also need knowledge. I also need to be groomed. In addition to the books that I read, I need people who have already gone ahead of me to speak to me so that when I have a problem, I know who to go to, who to have certain conversations with, whose video do I need to watch, what do I need to learn? Because that knowledge and understanding helps you to know how to navigate the turbulence and how to overcome certain hell, even leapfrog certain challenges. Then going through this process of accumulating knowledge and building understanding is meant to also build your character. Because leadership without character is a danger first to yourself and to the people around you. Now, to resilience. I have a gradation of different layers of resilience. And when I started speaking and I mentioned the aspect of how turbulent and messy the space of leadership is, the leadership journey you call it introduced to us, the mountains that one would need to overcome, like how to overcome my individual mountains. I am a shy person naturally. I really do not like standing in front of people to speak. There was a day I was put on the spot to speak in front of people, just a small group. I had to run for my life. But today, I'm able to speak to people with such confidence. And the truth is, any platform I stand on for the first time, I begin to have butterflies in my stomach before I even begin to speak. But how have I been able to master and overcome those demons in me? I had to learn how to be resilient, because when I ran away that time, I had to learn the lesson from it and know how not to run away when I'm being called to speak at any event again. So you begin to notice that when someone is a leader, you are within the space where you've been able to identify your purpose, your passion has been built, then the attitude of leadership, you've started cultivating those things and you are building the internal strength. There are certain things that happen that you have no control over. And those things are the reason why, as a leader, you need to learn the importance of resilience, because especially in the 21st century, where we are saddled with a lot of uncertainties. And for the first time in our generation, we have about 6 generations living together. We have the baby boomers from after post World War II till this time, where we call them the Alpha, the Generation Alpha. We have about 6 generations within them. We are all living within the same time space, which means that there is a stiff competition for the same resources, and more people seem to be creating more. So now the younger generation, which includes me now, sometimes we become very uncertain if we will be able to make the needed impact in life. That is why understanding the essence of resilience is very, very important. So I'll just walk us through quickly a couple of definitions of resilience. The first one is a definition given to me by my younger brother when I was having a discussion with him about what he thinks resilience is. So he told me, my younger brother, he is in high school now, SS2. He told me that he thinks resilience is perseverance with determination. And I thought that was a very powerful definition. Second definition is the ability to accept, understand, process, and grow through emotional pain. Remember, I said leaders don't just do the things they do, they feel what they do, which means that because you are feeling the things you are doing, there would equally be emotional strain on your path. That would require being able to know how to grow through that emotional pain so that you don't become bitter. It also means the ability to cope with something, the ability to cope when something goes wrong or bounces back. It also means the ability to recover from adversity, to bounce back from challenging life situations or when things don't go as planned. Learning to be calm, to be clear and stable when things do not go like the way you wanted them to go. More definitions. Resilience is the ability to adapt, to bounce back from tragedy, trauma, threat, and any significant source of stress. And being a leader is shoving yourself into a stressful environment, even if you're a leader of your life. Resilience is the sum of your everyday actions, in summary. So starting from the definition my brother gave me to this last definition, it's just the sum of your everyday actions. And it requires perseverance with determination. Then I found this one somewhere and I thought it was really powerful, so I decided to include that as well. It says resilience is like a muscle that can be strengthened through exercise. It is a habit-forming skill. The more goals you accomplish, the more resilient you become. More than a skill, it is an adaptation. So resilience is learning how to be able to, when we say adapt, you're able to adjust to situations so that being in the position you are even leading yourself and things do not go as planned, do you just throw in the towel? There must be a way where you'll be able to outthink or outsource help from somewhere to be able to support you through the journey. And as my subsequent speakers will be touching on, they will be showing us how to build resilience. So because of that, I wouldn't want to touch on that to go ahead of myself. Now, common stresses in your leadership journey. And I believe knowing this would help us to understand or appreciate the essence of building resilience. Number one, we live in an environment of extreme fear. From the world that is the wars going on around us to the internal conflict within our individual countries to the economic uncertainties and the challenges of even, and now we just came out of one pandemic and the whole world is thinking, oh, it is over now, but then there are still looming cases and silent cases elsewhere. We live in a period of great uncertainty and we live amongst people. You see, in our generation, given that we are having about 6 generations put together, we have more deeply embedded interest to the extent that before people help you, they only help you because they also know they'll get something from you. So it is making it very difficult for people to even trust when they have something to work on. So someone may come up with a great idea, thinking I'm speaking with this person to help me. Suddenly you speak with the person steals your idea. What do? And that is the generation we live in. So if you're not someone who understands the essence of resilience, the moment you come up with one idea and someone still says, you just throw in the towel and just sit aloof. But understanding these stresses will let you know why you need to build the needed mechanism. So please do not miss the subsequent sessions. We live in a time of rough terrain where we does not allow us to test many strategies. Sometimes you have to think on the go to be able to address certain concerns. And sometimes you have to know how to recoil. But then the truth is, the terrain we walk on now is very rough, very sharp and slippery. Then we live in a time where we are faced with great adversities, difficult issues and challenges. Then another stressor is failure. Because, and I'll be touching on just the last two. I'll be touching on adversity and failures. As a leader, one of the common things you would deal with, remember we've already spoken about the attitude of what makes someone a leader. So once you've been able to start building those mechanisms, what you are doing is you are cluttering your mind to be in a certain space where you'll be able to, first of all, lead yourself, begin to imagine and reimagine and re-envision certain future for yourself, and then inspire people to even follow you. Even if no one is following you at the moment, the fact that you've been able to reimagine a future for yourself and passionately pursue it, automatically followers will begin to see what you are doing and they'll take an interest in it. Then you'll be able to inspire them to also become better versions of themselves. But one of the things that you immediately notice is difficult challenges or difficult situations will be the first thing every leader faces. Even how to translate the ideas you have now to even point one, you'll be faced with a lot of hurdles. But the truth of life is that adversity doesn't discriminate. Everyone, irrespective of their status in life, have had to deal with tough times. Show me anyone who the world has acclaimed as a great leader who never faced a tough time. So when you begin to journey on your path of leadership and you start encountering certain challenges, do not see it as something peculiar to you. Do not think life is just getting at you. No, it is not peculiar to you. That is why many people have gone ahead. So their life becomes a model that we can look on to avoid the same mistake they committed. You can rise from adversities. You can help yourself think and act in a way that helps you to overcome adversities and build resilience. Remember, I told you that I wasn't a good student and I was the last in my class. I was always carrying the class. But you see, that was the difficult challenges I found myself in. But at some point, when I received help, I suddenly moved beyond that. I didn't know how to stand in front of people to speak. But at some point, I found myself standing in front of over 200 people, speaking to them and they are listening, asking questions and they're responding. I wasn't able to coordinate or even articulate my thought properly to people. But today, I've been in a privileged position, which I continue to thank God for, that people can come to me with their problems, we discuss, and we are both able to find a solution around it. And later we see the fruits of our discussion. So anyone on this platform can equally rise above the adversities. Then moving on to failures, I decided to equally study the life of certain people, like the brain behind the Hyundai vehicle. All the things I learned from his life when I studied his documentary, he made it. You see, this man is one person that failed several times. He failed several times. He had little education, not beyond primary school. He failed several times. Any job he went into, he kept failing. But he was still insistent that he would create something novel. One of the things he said about failures was, it is failures rather than successes that teach us invaluable lessons. So as you journey on your path and you begin to have certain failures, you see, don't just throw it away. Sit down and learn something from the failure. That is what begins to build your leadership properly. He said it is not necessary to remember one success. No, that should be remembered by others instead. Rather, we should remember our losses and failures, because those who forget their failures will fail again and again. And one of the treasures I hold dear to my heart are the failures in my life. And at some point, I had to even write about my failures and post it on LinkedIn to encourage someone else. And from those failures, I've received testimonies from people who said they read my story, were encouraged, and because of that, they decided to take the next step, and now they had a breakthrough in their individual lives. So you see, the failures that you begin to encounter as a leader, they should not despair you. They should rather urge you on to want to do something from using the lessons you learned from that mistake. But it shouldn't be a mistake that you deliberately commit, because when you keep on doing that, it would affect your mind psychologically. Then the persons who created Honda made something similar. I decided to use these people because they are most of the world, they are the largest car manufacturing companies in the world now. And if their founders went through all these things and have been able to say something about failure, then I believe there was something for us to learn in there. That is why I brought up their quote. He said, looking back on my work, I feel that I was doing nothing more than mistakes, blunders, and serious omissions, but I am proud of the achievement. Although I made one mistake after the other, and my mistakes and failures never occurred for the same reasons. Powerful statement. So as you begin to journey on your leadership path, when you see yourself making mistakes, do not be despaired. You see, rather seek, you see, what I'm not mentioning more concerning these two, the first two names, was the fact that when they started making those mistakes, they knew what to do, who to contact, how to recoil, rethink their strategy, go back to the market, have different conversations. And in fact, it will interest you to know that the creator of Hyundai was not trained as an engineer to begin with, because he was a primary school dropout. And even his dad didn't believe he could make anything good. The dad kept telling him, come back to the village and farm, but he had to keep running to make a decision that I am going to create something unique. Which means that when you start on your journey, you may have a great idea, but many times you may need the help of people to help you achieve those dreams. That is why teamwork is equally important as one of the principles of true leadership, or the attitude, rather, of leadership. Then the last person I want to mention is Henry Ford, the creator of the Ford vehicle. He said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. We mentioned these 2 points, adversity and failure. You begin to appreciate why resilience is needed for a leader. Perhaps you may be in school, your failures may be not passing your examination or having difficulty understanding certain topics. You will begin to quickly realize that for you to become resilient and learn how to lead yourself first, you would have to know how to outsource help from people, how to be kind to yourself sometimes, because sometimes we become so hard on ourselves and we end up breaking the little energy we've been able to garner to move through life. So the moment you begin to realize that the great inventors of our time equally failed and had challenges, adversities, but still managed to rise above it to create a path for future generations to follow, then it means that irrespective of where you find yourself in, the moment you identify your purpose, you immediately know that, number one, you'll be facing adversities and you may face and you will face failures. So you begin to psych up your mind and begin to train yourself on how do you capitalize on those challenges and failures to your benefit. So this is just putting all their thoughts together. Now, as I move to the conclusion, these 4 points are key points that I believe would help us to lead in the moment of crisis. Number one, hindsight. So hindsight will talk about what we know to be true because it has happened before. And the truth of the matter is, every leader has failed before. Insight, knowing what we know. What do we learn from the information that we have available? Because it's our ability to analyze the moment that you are in that is important. So when you find yourself in the same situation, having gone through this lesson, knowing that certain leaders equally feel they had challenges, what do you do with that information? Then you begin to create your foresight. It says foresight means that what do we need to know about what is coming? It will always be several scenarios to be planned. So you have to be able to, you see, you can't plan properly when you don't know what has happened. That is why going through this leadership training is equally important. Then intuition. Intuition is intuition is what we know to be true, absence of the data. You see, As a leader, one of the things you need to master is after you've listened to everyone, you need to know how to take a decision for yourself. And that comes with risk taking. So if you have all the great ideas, but then you are still not putting yourself out there to even try it, you aren't going to be a leader. I love this point. It's something that I learned since about 3 years ago, and that's really helped to keep shaping my mind. It talks about mediocrity. And it says that mediocrity is a function of 4 points: compromise. I presented the same point, this same slide in my last year presentation, but I believe it's a great film. That is why I'm repeating it. It's a combination of 4 points: compromise, indecision, lack of vision, past thinking. Having talked about all that we've discussed, if you keep compromising, if you keep thinking about the failures of your past, if you keep remaining indecisive and not creating any path for yourself, any vision for yourself, you'll be a mediocre in the field that you are in, irrespective of the potentials embedded in you. So I'd like to mention the point of Nelson Mandela, who said that, he said, action without vision is passing time. Vision without action is daydreaming, but vision and action change the world. I hope the few minutes I've had with you and the discussions we've had and the points that we've gone through have managed to help whet your appetite on how to begin to discover the leadership potential in you and then capitalizing on that to build your life forward. So I'll leave you with this last slide. Then I'd want to say thank you, and I'm open to any question.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Emmanuel. It was very insightful. I learned a lot from it, and it was inspiring because from different stages that you took us through, it was really something that I would say that even if you are a leader before, you brought a new perspective to it, and it was enlightening listening to you. So Charles is supposed to moderate the question and answer session. So for those that have questions or comments that want Mr. Emmanuel to address specifically, you can do so by raising up your hand or by typing in the chat box. And if you also want to appreciate him for his wonderful presentation, you can also do that in the chat box. That would be grateful, so that you know that, of course, he did something wonderful and he has been able to impact people today, and he has inspired them to go forth and become leaders and to excel. So Charles, if you're around, can you please take over and moderate the question and answer session so that you can pick those that can ask their questions? Because I think we have a couple of minutes that we can do justice to that. So over to you, Charles, if you're there. Okay. Okay, I think Charles is not being able to speak, so I'll continue with that.
Okay, sorry, they just had to mute. Sorry.
All right, thank you, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mr. Emmanuel. We really appreciate the fact that you can lay emphasis on what purpose mean, what leadership mean, and taking us on the face of understanding how to be a leader and what to look out for. So I know every one of us has been blessed in this area. So we want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Emmanuel for this powerful rendition. We really appreciate. I want to say PFF loves you and we also celebrate you. Yeah. So if you are Okay, so everyone. So if you have a question, please start typing it out. Raise your hand up. Yes, I can see Samuel has a question. Please, if you have a question, kindly raise your hand up or type out your question. It will be addressed, right? Please do so. You give while I give like 1 minute for everyone to do that. We'll pick the first person who is Samuel, right? Every other person. Okay, I'm seeing the next hand. Mr. Prince. So Mr. Samuel, Mr. Prince, any other person. So the speaker made mention of the fact of someone encouraging him that he was intelligent, right? He showed forth his interest. The person had to ask him to study and read. Okay, I've seen um Yaha, Yahaya. So that's the next person. So we can always remind ourselves that we live for a purpose, right? According to the speaker, it's just there for us to discover it. And for us being a leader is not being a manager, according to what Francis said, and buttressed by the speaker. So you ought to know that you're a leader. You just have to have that skill set to work towards becoming a perfect leader, a 360-degree leader. So let's not waste any time. Let's move on to Mr. Samuel. The host, can you unmute Mr. Samuel? Or Mr. Samuel, can you type out your question? So let's start with Mr. Samuel. Thank you.
Well, good evening, sir. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, sir.
Sorry.
First of all, I want to appreciate PFF for this wonderful opportunity given. It's been really inspiring and motivating. And to our wonderful speakers, I must applaud your efforts and your leadership prowess. That being said, my name is Nchindian Samuel Shamba from Nigeria. And my question is very simple, if I may put it to the speaker. I have been to some leadership opportunities since my undergraduate days until now. I'm also in leadership position. But each and every time I'm opportunity to speak, especially to hold a mic, at first 30 seconds to 1 minute, or so to say 1 minute to 5 minutes of the starting of the speech, I always have, like the speaker said or mentioned, and I quote, butterflies in my belly. And I don't know, because I've occupied a lot of some leadership positions, even in the student union government, and till date, I've been having such challenges. So I don't know if the speaker might be able to buttress what will really be the cause of it. That being said, I'm sure the leadership aspect also boils down to confidence as regards student examination. I've witnessed something the last semester that I wrote an exam, which is my MSc program. The first paper I took, in fact, I had to speak to the invigilator to give me like 2 minutes so I can maybe relax myself, because my hand was shaking. I was so confident. I knew all the questions, so very much confident, but yet my hand was shaking at the approach of that question. Although, if not the fact that I really understood the course, I would have maybe froze up or something. So I don't know if there might be some solutions to that the speaker might be well equipped enough to put me through. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think I would want to take the questions, then I'll start answering them one after the other. Would that be okay?
Yes, that is fine. That is fine. So we can have the next person ask question. So let me look at, we have
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you can please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My question is very simple. As the previous speaker was explained, that a person can share the link to his neighbors or those people in his communities for them to participate in this particular issue. So I would like to know, what are the maximum number of the people that can participate in a particular project? That is my question. Thank you very much.
Sorry, so what is the maximum number of people that can participate? I didn't catch the last part, please.
Hello, Yaya. We didn't get the last part of your question. We heard that you were asking about the number of people that can participate in the project. So we want to be clear, which project in particular? Because the speaker wants to understand the question well.
Okay. What I'm trying to explain is before the speaker come into the stage, we had a little session that that he defined so that we can share the links to our neighbors, our friends, just to participate in this particular issue. For us to win a grant for a particular project, so I would like to know what are the maximum number of the team that can participate in this particular project. Thank you. I hope I'm well explained.
All right, thank you for that. So for that, your particular question, I think and Uncle Sop would answer that after we have taken another question. So please, Uncle Sop, you can take note of that. So the next person is Prince Boateng. So you can unmute your mic and ask the question. Prince Boateng, can you please unmute your mic and ask the question so that we can proceed to the next?
Okay, please, can I be heard?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, how can leaders develop and maintain resilience in the face of ongoing stress and pressure?
Okay.
All right, that is noted. So for the last person here, we have there is no name but Techno KJ5. So you can unmute your mic, and we'd like you to introduce yourself by stating your name and which country you are from, so that we'll get to know that we are not talking to a chatbot. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. I'm Samuel Olusola Jacob. I'm using a different phone. That's why you see the Techno K something. Samuel Olusola Jacob from Nigeria. Okay, my question goes like this. I used to have this phobia when communicating, just like the speaker spoke, and he said he used to have that feeling. And how can one deal with that? Whenever I stand before audience to talk, I used to have these phobias, this kind of shyness to talk before people. And again, another one is at times I have this kind of, sometimes there are some topics I want to talk on or I want to deal with. Maybe I go for an interview and I'm asked to take a topic like teaching interview, because I taught before I retired from teaching profession. So when I go for interview, some topic I know very well I want to handle. When I start doing it, because of this over anxiety, we do to the extent that I begin to derail, go the wrong path, instead of saying the right thing I'm supposed to say. I'm going to say the opposite of what I'm supposed to say, and it has of time. Though not always. This not this that. How would I do those two? Thank you.
Thank you. So I will start with the last question, which that has to do with dealing with the nervousness, then also the stage fright. So I remember the first time I had that problem, I didn't really have anyone to have a conversation with to ask how would I be able to overcome this challenge. But what helped me was I decided to also search online to look up on what other people were talking about on that same topic. And some of them spoke about how you need to take in deep breath before you go in to speak, and how you need to learn how to calm your nerves. But I tried them early on, and I believe if I'm to ask all of you, you equally try this, but it wasn't really helping me. until one day I listened to one of my mentors, and in his speech, he made a statement that he often hears people asking him, how do you overcome stage fright? The truth is, even the most confident speakers, they still have butterflies when they climb the stage. But one of the things that made them stand out is they know what they are going to talk about. So because they know what they are going to talk about, they master that topic well. Then they practice it to themselves. So I was given this topic at the beginning of the year. So I used from January. By then I was in Ghana collecting data. I was in the field collecting data. So I used from January, February till now. And I've been preparing every single month. I've been putting down certain notes, reading different books, doing my research elsewhere, putting the necessary information together. I only finished putting my note together when it was 4:40 today. That was when I finished putting my final note together to come and speak. When Francis was giving the introduction, I was sitting in my room with no one here, just my PC in front of me. But I was still having butterflies in my stomach. Am I going to say anything sensible? Would they listen? But you see, I remembered that which my mentor taught me. The moment you know your stuff, you know what you're going to talk about. The fact that you've been invited to speak means that you have something to offer. So it is up to you to begin to make a case why it was worth bringing you in. Did it happen the first time? No, the first time I still prepared. I was still shivering. But one thing that I started noticing was the moment I remember the first thing I need to say, and I don't try to cram it, because when I try cramming it and I forget one word, I forget everything. What helped me was I know how to understand the materials I want to speak to. So the moment that understanding is there, I can take it from any other angle. And if I'm going to use that one to respond to the other one about the interview, if I'm going to an interview and I know I'm preparing for certain questions to be asked, at least I try to have one example for each thing I want to talk about, because they are basically going to ask me a couple of things about my CV. So I need to know at least one thing about what I've done before and how to weave a story into it. So when you start from that point of knowing your things and understanding it for yourself, good news is the stage fright, it gets better with time. Because if I hadn't told you I was shivering when I was called to even speak here right now, I was having a lot of heat around my chest area. I started immediately when SOP was giving the introduction for me to come in. And before he handed over to Francis again, I had to run to the toilet again and come back. But if I hadn't informed you, you wouldn't know. So the truth is, it comes, it is there. But it gets better when you know the materials you're going to speak to. And the moment you know the materials, that is where you draw your confidence from. And that is what has been helping me all well. So I take in a deep breath. I try to control my speech. I try to tone down when I'm speaking so that I exude the confidence in what I want to communicate. I keep adding all those skill sets to it. But the most important thing is I can't exude confidence when and if I don't know what I'm talking about. So I think one of the things you need to do is when you know you're going to prepare, I'm going to give any speech anyway, make sure you've done your homework, or you know the things you're going to speak to. Practice it by yourself. There are days my wife laughs at me. I had to give a presentation, 5-minute presentation at a conference, and for close to 2 months, it was 1 week. Within that 1 week, even when I'm walking on the road, I stand by the waste bin and I start speaking to the waste bin what I'm going to talk about at the conference. That was my way of building the confidence and trying to understand what I want to talk about. And because I did that, the day of the presentation, I spoke for less than 5 minutes, but I made my point straight. When I climbed the stage, I was equally shivering, my knees were wobbling. But because I knew what I was going to say and I said the first word, the stage fright just disappeared. So the best advice I'll give to you is please do your best to understand your topic and know what you're going to talk about. And when you go in for the first 30 seconds, when you are jittering, it's okay, just keep quiet and take a deep breath. Then start your narration. As you keep on doing that, you see when you are Fidgeting and you take your mind to the fidgeting. That is what puts you off. By just taking a deep breath, remember what you've prepared for and just go straight to the point. And I believe as you keep on doing that, you begin to overcome those stage frights. So that is what I did, and that is what I continue to do, and has been helping me. So to take the second question by Prince, he said, how can leaders develop and retain resilience in the face of ongoing stress and pressure? So I had a last slide, which I didn't show, and the slide talks about the three components of resilience: adaptability, flexibility, then the last one is learning. So one of the three, with these three things, I think every leader needs to know how to adapt. Now, I'll start with the flexibility. You see, sometimes when you're going through stresses, we think we are the only one that problem is happening to. No, we are not the only person. Many people who are equally leading in different capacities are going through the same problem. What you need to realize is because others are going through it and you're going through it, it's not unique to you. So you've not been targeted. So what you need to do is give yourself some break to think through the problem that you are facing. Then number two, learn how to ask for help. Because you see, most of the time we want to try and solve every problem ourselves. That is why as a good leader, one of the things you need to learn to do is know how to have certain clan around the people that when you are stressed or you're in a challenge, you can speak with. Because those people help you to be able to overcome those things. And sometimes you also need to be kind to yourself. You see, when you try doing the same thing, you're not getting the result, but then you keep repeating the same thing. That is the definition of insanity, but it's also the definition of adding excess stress on yourself. So the earlier points I made, learn how to recoil. Then learn how to break down the problem that you are facing, because often the problem is big, it scares you. So break that problem down, target the smallest one to finish it, then let that give you the motivation, because you'll be able to do one task, then go to the next one. So by the time you go through the individual ones, and because you've been doing it gradually and getting some motivation from it, it encourages you to know how to face the big task. So please, cut yourself some break. You're not the only one that problem is happening to. Other people have equally faced it. So be kind to yourself. Number two, learn how to seek for help when it's needed. Do not try to be a Superman. Then learn how to break down the problem, because every problem that has been broken, that becomes easier for you to see the various components that can be addressed immediately. But then if you have everything lumped together, it confuses and even scares you. There is a book called Eat the Frog. What that person advises is, Brian Tracy, what he advises is, if you have a problem to solve, start with a big task, then clear it up. Then as you go along, go to the smallest one. If that wouldn't work for you, you can start with a little gradually, but if that will work, break the problem down and start with the biggest one, but seek for help. Then he said, building reputation is important in leadership. How does one correct past wrongdoings and lay a path or foundation for a role in leadership? The first thing I'll say is, once you know your integrity has been solved because of a problem or a blunder you committed, acknowledging it is the first point. Then, if it is to a group of people that you made a blunder to, know how to go and apologize. See, first of all, the acknowledgement should include you forgiving yourself. Because the part of leadership is such that sometimes in the spur of the moment, you may make a decision that you will later look back from hindsight to notice, oh, you made the wrong choice. But you see, every true leader is someone that knows how to acknowledge their mistakes, forgive themselves, and ask for apology, then learn from the problems and the mistakes and the blunders they committed. Then from it, begin to chart a different path until you learn how to acknowledge your wrong, because certain people, even when they are wrong, they still don't want to acknowledge it. And the truth is, humans, once a trust is broken, it takes a longer time for the trust to be rebuilt, because it's a social capital. For you to withdraw from the other accounts and to rebuild it takes a relatively longer time. So the fact that people are forgiving you doesn't mean they would immediately embrace you. It will take some time to rebuild that confidence, but you must be prepared to go back and rebuild it step by step. And that rebuilding process starts with you forgiving yourself, acknowledging the mistake you did and the lessons learned from it, and then be prepared to go through the toil Because I wouldn't tell you there was a magic wand that the moment you whip it, everything will change. No, people will still remember that thing because it's a trust issue that was broken. Because leadership is a position of trust. So you have to learn how to rebuild that trust again. And I've spoken to the nervousness issue. And I think there's one question here. As a leader, I have to ask for others, not for myself. No matter how eager and important the thing is for me, how can I manage this situation? So if I get your question well, say I know well, I can request something for others, but actually I can't do it for myself. So you want to know how to manage the situation where you do things for yourself, but then you can't request the same thing for you. Is that what you mean, please?
I think
Okay.
so.
Okay. So what you need to realize is you can't help people to the extent that you want to help them when and if you are always disadvantaged. So I remember when I was coming to Hull for the first time in the taxi that was bringing me from the airport, I saw a car drive past me, a trailer actually, and there was an inscription written on it that "Be kind to your mind." And I thought deep about it. And the reason why I thought deep about it was I also like to go out of my way to help more people, but then didn't know how to create time for myself. And became so bad that I remember when I was doing my national service in Ghana, I think in Nigeria they call it NYC, and I don't know what the other NYS or NYC, well, what the other nations also call it. I was sick one day, very sick, but I still went to work because I wanted to do things for people whilst I was very sick. So my dad called, spoke with me and asked me a question. Now, oh, where are you? Thinking I was home or at the hospital. I said, no, I'm in school. And his question was, the work you are doing, was it going on before you joined them? And I said, yes. His next question was, when you die, will the work continue? I said, yes. Then he said, bye-bye. He didn't say anything again. The moment he said that, I understood the point he was making. So I just packed my bag and left to the house to go and take care of myself first. So you see, to be a good leader, don't, in as much as you want to help people, also learn how to create opportunities for yourself to rest. And when you need something for yourself, be prepared to go and ask for the same thing for yourself. Because if you don't do it and you are always disadvantaging yourself, but then helping other people, what will happen is you begin to develop what we call jealousy or envy against the people who seems to be doing well, but you haven't getting anything from them. So please, when you see something and you are equally interested, make a move, because once you make a move and it works out, you know how it works. So you can use it as an opportunity to train other people, but don't always put yourself at the back. How can we communicate in a pleasant manner and understandable way while we are stressed? Huh. That's a good question. I would also refer back to the point I made earlier. Understand what you need to say. And well, and also there are two, well, I believe there are different ways that people handle stress. For me, when I am really stressed, sometimes I feel like I draw much more on my understanding of, say, certain things. And if I'm communicating it, I just want to go straight to the point. I wouldn't have the strength to keep elaborating. But if I know I've been called to a conference or to a place to speak and I'm stressed, no matter how stressed I am, at least I take a moment to try to close my eyes and rest for a bit. Even if it's just 1 minute, or even if it means going to the toilet and sit down and taking a deep breath to just relax myself before I go out there to go what I need to do. But you can't communicate in a pleasant manner when and if you don't know your staff. So please, this one is very, very important. When you don't know what you're going to talk about, no matter the skills that are communicated to you, you will still go and mess up. And being able to come to the point where you articulate your thoughts clearly, it comes with time and with practice. It comes with time and with practice. You would have to consistently keep doing it. So sometimes you have to keep presenting to yourself. So when you keep presenting to yourself and you start noticing the blunders, don't be shy. Sometimes I ask people, I said it and that. Did I speak well? Did I make a mistake? Can you please point out my mistake to me so that I can keep improving? So if you've been doing that, even when you are stressed and you are in a situation where you still need to speak, at least you have some tips on your hand that you can still draw on to help address or respond to the questions that you need. I hope I've answered your question. Then and your last says, please, can we get the slides to every presentation? Yes, I'll make it available. Someone says, what should we consider in choosing mentors, and how many mentors can one have in his or her life? I think for mentor, you can have as many as you want, depending on the area of your life that you need a mentorship in. And one of the things to consider in a mentor is someone who isn't and who wouldn't be who wouldn't be what's the word? Who wouldn't feel, let me say, challenged, who wouldn't feel challenged by your successes. So someone who is willing to bring out the best in you. Someone who is willing to bring out the best in you. And the most important thing is look at the person's character. You see, you should be able to study someone's life over a period of time to notice that they've been doing, and if their words measure with what they've been telling you and their actions, that tells you that this person has character, number one, and integrity to give to you. And sometimes someone may not even be having a good character, but there is something the person is good at that you are still interested in. Because mentors are not perfect people, they are human, so they have their flaws. So you should be able to see through, irrespective of their flaws, to pick the quality that you're interested in. But I think a good mentor should be someone that when you are with, the person can bring out the best. You shouldn't be someone who is intimidated by your progress, or someone who wouldn't want to tell you the truth. If you have a mentor who cannot tell you the truth to your face, run away from the person wouldn't help you. And number two, you should, if you're choosing someone as your mentor, then be prepared to do what the person tells you, and be prepared to open up to have conversations with the person, however uncomfortable they are. Then number three, a mentor should be someone who is really interested in your life. So the person, you should see the person also going out of their way to check up on you, to want to see what is going on in you. So the people that are my mentor, they are those that are very close. They are those that are mentoring me from afar. So I just catch up when I watch their videos. But there are others that they check up on me. I go to them, we sit down, we talk, they rebuke me. That is a mentor. In case you are a leader of a particular organization,
I want you to respond to Jessica Beatus. I know there's so many of those questions, but I would like you to respond to Jessica Beatus. She has her hand up for a while.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Jessica, please, your question.
The talks on the chat can be a lot, but let's do the people that raise their hand.
Okay, Jessica.
Hello, Jessica. Are you there? Kindly unmute your mic and
Okay. Hello.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah,
Okay.
please. I can hear
Yeah, I
you.
was just yeah. So I just want to ask on resilience. Like there are some I was able to take a note on was it the types, I don't know, like somewhat, moderate, highly resilient, and exceptionally resilient. So my question is, like, because they have been like categorized, so to mean the first one to the last one, like there's exceptionally resilient, like I can say is the high level of resilience. So is there any like a better level of resilience, or at any level, like any level of resilience you can manage, like it is okay, or this these levels, like yeah. So that was the question. I hope you got me, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question.
also,
So yeah,
another addition.
can you hear me?
Yeah, this is addition, by the way. So I just wanted
Okay.
to ask on, like, you mentioned something on what is not leadership. Like, management is not leadership, because this is not the first learning about leadership, and everyone has their own, like, perspectives, has their own ways of sharing and teaching. But I once heard that leadership, management is characteristics of leadership, if I'm not mistaken. So I just wanted to be clarified here. So if leadership is not management, then management is it part of, or, like, what is it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So leadership is not, like I said, leadership is not necessarily management, but someone can be in management position, but then has the qualities of a leader. So that was what I meant by the fact that you are a manager does not necessarily make you a leader. If you do not have the set, or you do not exhibit those qualities, that makes you the leader. Because I'll give an example of a professor from the University of Ghana who is I think the director for the University of Ghana Law School. And under his leadership, because being a director means he's the one managing the institution, he's been able to create a unique path for the law faculty, to the extent that under his leadership and under his tenure, the law faculty has been totally transformed. And by his actions and the policies he put in place, he's been able to create a new vision and a future for the law faculty. So just last 2 or last 3 months, they did a profile on him, and they mentioned how the law faculty was before he came, and when he became, say, the manager of the law faculty, what he's been able to do so far, and where the law faculty has gotten to under his tenure. So this person as well was able to thrive in that position, because he wasn't just managing it based on the fact that, so I've been put in this position, so we just need to do this. But then when you listen to the testimonies from him, some of his colleagues, you notice how he was able to steer and galley all the people to gather them together. Then by bringing them together, he shared the vision for what he needed to see achieved within that position. And by so doing, they've been able to recreate. So like I said, they are not really inventing things a lot, but then innovatively, we create a path that in his absence, he can still be mentioned that under his tenure, the law faculty was able to do 1, 2, 3. So that was what I meant by leadership is not necessarily being in the management position, but then you can be a manager and still exhibit those qualities. But then just because you are a manager does not necessarily make you a leader. Then in response to the other question you asked on resilience, I think resilience is a continuum. So there was a slide that I didn't show, and the statement within that slide says that the ability to accept, to understand, to process and grow through emotional pain. That is talking about the definition of resilience. We first have to acknowledge and accept it, release and process it and understand it. Then to finally act on the lessons learned from the emotional pain in line with our visions and values. That without this, a leader or visionary will quickly lose sight of their own vision when they face challenges in their journey. So this then drums home the fact that leadership, the resilience is what we call it. Resilience is a process. And at every process in time, you may be having higher resilience or low resilience. What is the most important thing to realize is when you're in a situation where you know you need to call for help, like the 3 things I mentioned, being adaptable, flexible, and learning, you should be able to apply those things to be able to address each process or space that you find yourself in. And I think as you keep on doing that, you know that at one point in time, your resilience was high, but at another point, you're not able to handle the situation or recoil and try to regather your energy, then go back to do the same thing. So it's a process, it's a continuum. So it keeps fluctuating, but it depends on your ability to know when you are stressing, you need support, and when to build on certain things. So I think at this point, we are way past time. I know there was one more question I've not responded to. I am happy to send my response to the person via say just type in for the individual. So I'll leave my details in there. But I want to thank you all for the opportunity, and I want to thank PFF for the privilege to speak. Again, thank you guys, and I really appreciate the questions too.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, for your time, for also answering these questions, because they were actually demanding, I can tell. So because of time, I'll briefly call on Uncle Sop to answer the first question that Yahya asked about PFF, about the number of people. And after that, I'll just give a few announcements and state some of the things that we need to take note as we proceed to the next session tomorrow. So Uncle Sop, you can please address them.
Okay. You want me to address the question on what we need to do for the grant? And it's very simple. Just make sure you are here for the rest of the training. Make sure you are present. Ensure that your friends are here as well. And yes, we'll be training specifically on how to do project and write proposals on the last day. On the very last day, Afua has done this for 3 years. So she's done it for other programs that PFF has as well. So you will learn a lot from that project. If you have other questions, please send it through. Send it to Emmanuel himself, or send it to Francis at PFF. We'll be glad to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Sop. So because of time, I will not be saying many things, but kindly take note that attendance is compulsory. You need at least 80% to get the certificate after the training. And for those that want to apply for the impact fund, you have to be here, especially on the last day, so as to learn more about how to apply for grants and to organize an event. And also for those who are as a student, we have an essay competition that is currently ongoing. So I'll be sharing the flyer of the essay competition on WhatsApp. So if you are a student, you can take charge of that opportunity and just express your writing skills, and you get a chance to win $100. I'll be sharing that to the WhatsApp group where we have everyone there. For those who are yet to be on the general WhatsApp group for the International Leadership Bootcamp 2024, you can check your emails and click on the link and join. If not, try to message me on WhatsApp. My contact is already in the chat box. I send that together with my email. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining, for being here with us since 5 p.m. to this time. It's not easy. I understand that giving out your 2 hours in a day like this is not easy, but this is something important, and we appreciate your presence, and we look forward to having you tomorrow. You can also try to bring someone along to you tomorrow to continue to learn and to hear what our speaker is going to say tomorrow, because I believe it's someone that you all enjoy. So with that, I'll say that we have come to the end of today's session. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Goodbye. Thank you all. Okay, briefly, someone asked about attendance. There is what we normally do at the end of the training. We share a link to you to fill for the days that you attended. What we actually do is that even though that form we are giving you to do it, we are still going to look at whether you attended, because we normally take note of the people that are on the course. So wherever you are going to be filling, we are going to cross-check. And for the slides, I will talk to this facilitator if he can provide that, so that I will share to your respective emails or to the WhatsApp group so that you can access it anytime. And also, the video is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it and again. So thank you.